Hey everybody, thanks for joining us. I'm joined by my good friend Thomas here from Otterly AI, who is being incredibly patient with me, and I very much appreciate his patience. This should be showing everybody that this is not an AI-generated show. I don't think AI has the ability to have a cluster happening like we've gotten so far. But Thomas, thank you so much again, and I'd love it if you could give us an introduction into Otterly AI again and what you're trying to solve in the marketplace, and then the insights that you're going to be giving us about search AI from a marketer's and executor's perspective. I'd love to hear your intro again.
Yeah, hi Roger, hi everybody. I'm really excited to be here today. So I'm Thomas. I'm calling in from Austria, and as said, you might hear my German-English dialect coming all the way to you. But I'm one of the co-founders at Otterly, yes, and Otterly AI is an AI search monitoring solution where we help marketing and brands understand what's going on ChatGPT, Perplexity, and Google AI Overview. Because these days, yes, it's all about Google and how Google is turning from a search engine into an answer engine. But we all know that ChatGPT is everywhere these days, and therefore we as marketers have to understand how visible our brands are and how visible our websites are on these new AI search channels. So we are helping marketing teams with the monitoring, the tracking, the analytics piece, so marketers can take actions to basically rank better and be more visible on those AI search platforms.
Excellent. And then as far as like your background before you started with Otterly, what were you doing before this?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a SaaS marketer by heart. I work in B2B SaaS since probably 13, 14 years. Stopped counting, really, to be honest. So always mentioning a different number. But I'm a SaaS marketer, so I used to work for startups, scale-ups, larger enterprises, and up until September 2024, I led the marketing team as a VP of marketing at a company called Storyblock. I'm also still with Storyblock. I have 2 jobs right now at Storyblock as an IC, as well as building Otterly as my own SaaS. And the reason why I ended up building Otterly in the first place is because at one point, I think it was a year ago or so, I realized that I, as a marketing leader, I have no idea what's going on ChatGPT and Perplexity. And I came to this, it was kind of this one of those aha moments for me where I realized that we would spend so much time, energy, money on Google, right? Optimizing our organic Google visibility, optimizing also paid obviously on Google as well. But the reality was that our consumers were already using ChatGPT as well, right? Our audiences, our target personas. And so I kind of thought to myself, we can't take any action if we don't know what's going on ChatGPT, if we don't know what people do there and how visible we are or not visible we are. So I started talking to many other software marketers, colleagues in the space, former work colleagues, people I knew, Slack communities. I engaged in all of that, and I tried to speak to many people on how they are tackling this, right? I tried with the main purpose of understanding and trying to solve my own challenge on how can I get ahead of this, right? How can I get ahead and know what's going on there? So I think over the last year or so, I spoke to probably 100 marketers and many brands, and everybody kept telling me, Thomas, you're actually right. We have this challenge as well. We don't know what's going on there. But to be also very frank, we don't have a solution. We don't do anything. We don't act on this. And I was like, so everybody's kind of confirming that there's a pain and nobody really knows what's going on, but also nobody has a solution. So I was like, okay, yeah, maybe I should build it myself. And I'm a SaaS builder. I'm a creative person. So I have this long list on my to-do list that says SaaS ideas, right? Software ideas that I could build. I want to build at one point. And AI search monitoring moved up. And at one point I was like, I really have to do it now, I believe. So I started building some first prototypes. And fast forward to November, December 2024. We put that live. We put our website live. We went out to the market and got some tremendous good feedback. And 2 months later now, 2.5 months later, we have about 1,300 users using Otterly. So that's very satisfying in a way, because it confirms a lot of the initial assumptions, initial thoughts that we had. But I mean, we're not stopping there, right? We still build the product, are super focused on building the product, so all the marketing teams can gain insights on not only what's going on from a brand perspective, how visible, how popular is my brand on ChatGPT, for example, but also gaining action steps out of that, right? Because the reality is, it starts with monitoring, it starts with understanding what's going on there, and the next piece is, how can we act on that? How can we take actions from a content perspective, from an SEO perspective? There's this whole buzz, this new terminology around Generative Engine Optimization, GEO, and I'm sure, Roger, you're gonna ask me, okay, how is that different? What's all that about? But at the end of the day, what really excites me about AI search and the whole space is, it brings all the marketing teams closer together, because it's no longer about pure content, pure SEO. It's about digital PR and which efforts you do from a brand perspective, and so on and so forth. So yeah, as you can see, I'm really excited about this space right now.
Yeah, no, this is great. And I'm coming at it from, I wouldn't say I'm a power user. I use the ChatGPT, the chat interface. I've got the app installed on my laptop. I'm using it from a very practical sense of like, hey, here's a transcript, help me summarize it. And I'm starting to use it more and more for search, because I'm realizing that it is a cleaner result, right? Compared to going to Google or any search engine. I can ask ChatGPT for an answer, and while it provides links, it also like gives me answers. And so it's very powerful, but I haven't yet started making that click in terms of from a sales and marketing approach. Yeah. I'm aware, right? Like I'll do the vanity search. I'll check to see what's the top WordPress hosts, and Kinsta shows up, which is great. But how much further are we thinking into that? And so I think, this is why it might be helpful. We've got kind of an outline here that we've put together, and I think maybe it'll be helpful for myself and a lot of people to kind of walk through the evolution of search and kind of what we're seeing happen. And you just mentioned there with the generative engine optimization. So I love that. Can we just talk briefly? You've hit on this already, but can you just kind of walk us briefly through like what's happening in the market right now?
Yeah. I mean, if we look at the search market and how what happened in the past and what's happening right now, I mean, if we reflect over the last 20 years, really, Google has been the dominant player in the space, right? Google has I think in the Western world, 95% plus market share, which basically means we as consumers are first place when we do research, when we educate ourselves, when we want to learn something new, we go to google.com and start our user journey there. So Google has been around for many years and probably still will be around for many years in the future ahead. I'm pretty sure about that. But when we look at how search has changed, even before AI engines and generative AI became a thing, right? We as marketing teams, we as brands, were seeing a reality where Google is turning into some sort of walled garden in a way, right? And at one point, the whole frame around zero-click marketing was framed, and Spark Toro and among others and Brand Fishking are doing a great job at educating around that topic, right? Which basically ties into we as marketers, we as SEO people, we need to stop thinking in linear user journeys where we do something in order to get traffic, get a click from a Google search result page, and then get a lead or conversion from that. Because the reality is 60% or even more of all Google search queries go into a zero click. Why is that the case? It's the case because people find answers on Google directly. And the thing we're seeing now is, I think, also partially due to the ChatGPT explosion on the consumer side, is that Google is also trying to adjust to that reality, right? Where people no longer see this as a search engine, but see this as an answer engine. I'm going on a trip. I'm planning a travel vacation with my family, right? In the past, I might have been going to Google or booking.com to research hotels. Now my first stop as a consumer is I'll go to ChatGPT and I'll probably type something into the interface along the lines of, I'm looking for 5 hotel recommendations that are great for families, especially for little kids. My kid loves to swim, so I prefer to have a heated swimming pool because it's also a bit cold outside. Give me the top 5 recommendations in Barcelona, Spain. And what ChatGPT will give you back would be 5 hotel recommendations. And I've been there. I actually did that search query or a similar search query last week. And the reality is that as an answer engine, ChatGPT is great, right? I mean, sure, there's lots of stuff it can improve on, but it is great because it gives me exactly what I'm asking it for. From a marketing, if we switch now to our marketing, if we turn our marketing hats on, it's a very tricky situation, right? Because suddenly it's no longer about blue links. And if I, as Thomas, click on the first, second, or third Google ranking or ChatGPT ranking, what I did is I'll bookmarked the top 3 hotels actually, and I then went on to Google to look for their websites. So what's the marketing attribution? The marketer who's monitoring, who's working at hotel number 1 is probably seeing organic traffic coming in from Google. The reality is I started my user journey on ChatGPT. That marketer, that SEO person will never know that. Unless she starts tracking visibility on topics on ChatGPT. And why am I all mentioning this? Why am I mentioning this example? The way we as consumers do our research, consume, search is changing. And the reality is we as marketing teams have been keeping up in the past with zero-click reality. We started to invest in YouTube as a great format to also be visible organically. We started to diversify our channels, and many other channels become a thing. But now we're trying to play catch up in regards to what are we doing about this latest thing where people might at some point don't even need to go to our website, right? Because maybe an operator, an AI agent is doing all of that work for us. So I think that's ahead of us in the future. But right now we're still at a stage where we're trying to play catch up and trying to understand what's going on ChatGPT. And ultimately that change in channels will lead us to rethink how we do marketing and how we measure marketing success. Because it's no longer about those, what I would describe now as vanity metrics. How many organic traffic have we got from Google or ChatGPT? Everybody, as a pro tip, go to your analytics software, look at your referral traffic and how much is coming from ChatGPT. Yes, it's an interesting indicator, but it's not the full reality, because the reality is that people might discover you and your brand on ChatGPT and will never click any link on ChatGPT because it's just a different UX.
Sure. And we're going to start seeing it getting implemented in all types of different systems, right? Like Apple Intelligence is not a great example right now because it needs a lot of work. But at some point, right, I'm going to just talk to my phone. It's going to talk back to me, and I'm just going to take those audio instructions and go do whatever it told me to do. So this is really fascinating. And so I think we've already started to dig into the next topic here, which is the business implications. And so, we've got some key topics we want to talk about in there: how it impacts marketing and sales, the role of personalization, and then the risks and challenges. You've kind of already started going down the impacts in terms of we're going to see traffic decline. There's going to be a breakdown of silos. So I think that was an interesting thing of talking about how all the teams are going to need to come together on this. And then maybe like, let's talk a little bit about maybe the customer experience. From a customer's perspective, how should we start thinking about these experiences now?
Yeah, let's start with the customer experience, because I think at the end of the day, what we're seeing here is, in a very simplistic way, we're seeing that how we as brands acquire users is changing, how the platforms, the acquisition channels in a way are changing, right? But the reality is that's because our consumer behavior is changing, and how we consume content on the internet is changing, as you pointed out, right? It's no longer just about me browsing, scrolling on the internet. It's me talking to an agent, right? In a voice command type situation. It's me interacting with my smart mirror potentially when I'm in store, right? It's me interacting with any other smart devices, right? And I would make the point at the end of the day, as a brand, you always have to ask yourself, sure, where's your audience run, right? Is your audience using Alexa? Is your audience using Siri? And the second question is, do you want to play in that channel? Do you want to play that game, right? Because in a way, every channel, every platform is an investment to be done if you want to play in there, right? And you have to strategically prioritize, obviously, for sure as well, no matter how big or small you are as a company. But from a consumer behavior, I think what excites me about this whole shift towards AI search is that it's not only a search channel at the end of the day, but it's also a consumption platform. Meaning, yes, we still consume websites. I still believe in the future we'll consume websites. But at the end of the day, we're also consuming content on ChatGPT. If you ask ChatGPT, give me the latest news of my favorite sports club, it will give you that, right? And you'll be able to consume content directly on ChatGPT. If you ask Alexa the same thing, you'll get that from Alexa. And in a way, I'm not sure, Roger, if you recall, like omnichannel was this big buzzword a long time ago and still is around, right? But in a way, we're talking here about yet another channel in the whole omnichannel mix. And at one point in the future, maybe people don't need to browse on our websites anymore, because they'll find all of that on voice in an agentic web, in an AI agent type interface. But it's still our job as a marketing team, as a business, to provide content for those respective channels. So in one way, I think this whole change is just rethinking what we consider omnichannel experiences, and we're just seeing a new channel emerging in a way.
Okay, all right, which is a little terrifying, especially as a hosting company, right? For websites, it's like, wait, what's happening to the website? So, so I'm looking in here, and we're starting to talk about the role of search and personalization and content discovery, right? Because, we've already had to deal with Google giving unique results based on who's logged in and who's been using that terminal. That's been something that I've had to try and explain to clients for over a decade now, and it still isn't getting through. And now we're going to go to a whole nother level, right? Because I'm training my ChatGPT to be, my assistant in other words. So it's going to be even more unique. What are kind of the thoughts around strategizing around that, the personalization of things? Yeah,
I mean, the bad news, it doesn't get easier for us as marketers, right? The good news is I think the mechanic is changing a bit. The tools are changing a bit. What do I mean by that? If we stick with ChatGPT as an example, right, as an AI interface, as an AI engine, at the end of the day, if I'll, as Thomas, go to ChatGPT today as a logged-in user, maybe I'll even pay for a subscription, I'll get a few things, right? I'll get the chance to use their LLM model, their large language model, which have been trained on a massive set of data, right? This is why Nvidia stock is going up and up because everybody's training their models on and needs needs all the Nvidia chips. But large language models have been trained on a set of data, and I think it's briefly worth talking about the different sources they were trained on. OpenAI, I think, doesn't talk a lot about it, but you'll find that in the web archive, and you'll find it on Wikipedia what those sources have been. For example, on the latest GPT-3.5 and 4 models, and it basically is a combination of the web crawl, meaning they crawled the web. There has been knowledge cutoff dates, I think, for LLMs, right? So they crawled the web, let's say, until September, October 2023. And if you were lucky, and many of us were, your website probably has been crawled back then by OpenAI. This is one source. But more interestingly, there were other sources as well. They particularly highlighted Wikipedia as a source of training. Why Wikipedia? Because OpenAI knows that Wikipedia is in a way a well-curated global big website where we as humans create content, right? Because they also were particularly interested in human-created content, right? In our knowledge. And Wikipedia has like some stricter editorial guidelines. So they were using that as a source. Okay. But they were also using Reddit, for example, as a source of training. So I mean, we all know that Google has a special deal with Reddit. But Reddit, and to be very precise, Reddit threads with more than 2 karma upvotes were used by OpenAI as well, right?
Wow.
Why again? Again, because it's user-generated content. It's us as humans interacting and engaging, communicating on Reddit. And besides that, I mean, they also used some book libraries to train their model on that as well. And these were sources in a short version that were used for the LLM training, right? So don't be particularly surprised if you go to ChatGPT and it particularly uses the LLM, that Wikipedia shows up there, or Wikipedia-like citations, Reddit-like citations come up, right? Because those were part of the initial training set.
Gotcha.
In addition to that, and that's where personalization comes in, right? Over the last year, really, OpenAI rolled out their web browsing capabilities, right? Search GPT became a thing, which basically means they're going to use a real-time index of the web, right? Similar to Google, a Google index. I don't want to spread half knowledge, but what people are guessing is that this is really based on the Bing index, right? Okay. So some people correlate or see correlations between the Bing organic results compared to the ChatGPT, Search GPT results. So this is another source of that OpenAI is now using. And the last one is a memory RAG, right? The so-called memory RAG is a thing. So to your point, Roger, all the information that you fed into your previous communication and collaboration with ChatGPT, all the documents you uploaded, all the text you've given it, is used to personalize your experience. And I would make the point, this is an even way more personalized experience than you get on Google, right? Because, I mean, I'm not sure if you ever uploaded a document or an image to Google. I did not, right? But yeah. I definitely shared some stuff with ChatGPT. And it's quite funny because you can go to ChatGPT right now and you can say, tell me what you know about me and how you perceive my life. And I mean, you can even be funny and ask it to draw it into a picture. It's quite shocking how accurate that picture is of oneself.
Absolutely. No, I've done all of those tests. And of course, it was based off of a Reddit thread that I read about, right? So I found the prompts on Reddit. So it's super meta at this point. Okay, so that's the RAG part. That's like the personalized index, I guess, in a sense. Really quickly, before we start moving into the actionable strategies, because I definitely I want to get a good chunk of that in there. Yeah. What, everybody, the scare of AI, right? Like that's always on people's minds. There's a lot of stories because it sells, if it bleeds, it leads. what are like the really risks and challenges that individuals and businesses need to be keeping in mind as they move into this new world?
Yeah. So I'll come from Europe, right? And we have GDPR laws, for example, right?
Yeah.
Privacy laws on what companies are allowed to do with my personal information, with whom they are allowed to share it and whatnot, right? And I think the biggest risk that I think is also pretty unpredictable at this point is, at the end of the day, we as consumers are feeding information into a company called OpenAI, and we don't really know what's happening with that information, with our own data, be it personal data or whatnot, right? But data privacy, I think, is the biggest concern, at least from the companies I talk to, because the reality also is that there are many businesses cannot or do not oversee what their employees do with ChatGPT or other LLMs and AI agents in a way, right? So I think guidance and internal policies are helping here for sure, but employees who want to use ChatGPT will find a way to use it, right? Even if you block if you block their website in your VPN network and whatnot, right? So I think those privacy concerns are valid, but I also think what we'll see in the future is alternative solutions, right? Open sourced solutions. And I think we'll also see in this year and the upcoming years a big shift towards maybe even on-premise, on local AI agents that run on my computer, right? And are not even feeding any information back to the cloud in a way, right? Because of those privacy concerns. I think from a marketing perspective, from a do you want to play the ChatGPT game and do you want to be visible there and optimize for that? It's all about managing expectations on what is possible, what's not possible, and what do we need to do differently in a way. Because in one way, it is a different channel, but at the same time, the same mechanics around structured data, how you build your website, how you build content, how you create and distribute content, the fundamentals are not changing, are still there, and also apply to ChatGPT and other LLMs. And I think the marketing teams who are very smart about this are marketing teams who take risks, but also take risks in a setup where they are able to closely monitor the implications and the return in regards to their, for example, content and marketing work that they do. So as I said earlier, at the end of the day, it's a strategic business decision if you want to play on those channels or not, and be seen or not. 20 years, 25 years ago, we had those conversations if we want to block the Google bot from accessing our websites. These days, we have those conversations about the ChatGPT bot and all the other LLM bots if we want to block them or whatnot. And I believe the last time I looked, 10% of the 100 biggest websites are blocking ChatGPT bots from accessing their websites. It's not nothing, right? Am I a fan of that? Would I recommend everybody to do so? Also probably not, but everybody has to make up their own mind if you want your content be scraped and found by a ChatGPT bot.
Absolutely. And I think another thing to keep in mind there, and we're reading with DeepSeek this week, right? The distillation of other AIs, whether they want it to happen or not, is happening, whether that's ethical or moral or not. We just need to be aware that, hey, just because you're telling a bot not to hit your site, they don't have to, they don't have to adhere to that. So,
Yeah. In a way, it reminds me of the early days of the internet, right? And how wild west it felt. So,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Before we jump into the actionable strategies, you had a real world use case, maybe to help give an example of how if a marketer chooses to play in this pond. Do you mind walking through that really quickly, and then we'll get into more details?
Yeah. So maybe to set the scene, right? as I mentioned earlier, at Otterly, we help marketers understand how visible their brands are on ChatGPT, Perplexity, and Google AI overviews, which basically means you give us the topics, you add all the topics, think of all the keywords, all the search prompts you want to track, right? And we monitor that in an fully automated way for you. And one of our clients, a software company operating globally, realized that, they came to us with the first question around, our traffic is declining 20% on Google, and we don't know why. Because organic positions are not really changing, so we don't know why we're getting less traffic. So the first step for them was to understand what's going on Google. They added all of their, what I would describe as money-making keywords and topics, and they would realize that Google is showing in 50% of them an AI overview on average. 50%. So imagine the user experience, right? Google is showing an AI-generated answer before it's showing the organic ranking. For sure, this has an impact on the organic traffic that those businesses, those websites will get. So that was realization number one. Realization number two was for the same topics, they weren't really visible on Perplexity, for example, right? So they were asking themselves, what can we do about this? What can we do? We want to play the game. We want to be found for this particular market category in this particular industry. They felt it's worth going after it. So they were doing some content gap analysis, and it's very simple in a way, right? Take a look at what's there. Otterly, and you could also do a manual research as a start, but we help you do that automatically. We'll give you all the links, right? So you can take a look at all the websites who are already there. You can take a look at the brands who are already there. And even for content gap analysis, ChatGPT could help you with that, right? By simply prompting it to do a content gap analysis, comparing this URL with my URL, right? And when they were doing this content gap analysis, they would basically they have realized that their own content was not up to date from a freshness perspective, but B, even worse, their content was not matching as well as the competitor content, the user intent, intent meaning what users were expecting to see and get from an answer perspective, right? And the realization kind of was that, for example, on Perplexity, that user intent matters so much more, right? There are many other SEO factors, traditional and AI search factors, but in a way, content quality in the sense of how well is my content matching the respective user intent mattered so much. So they really spent lots of time, a couple of weeks updating and creating new content for this specific topic, for this specific niche. They put that live on their website. It was structured data, really well optimized, following I would say the principles on how you would structure your landing pages and your content. And within 7 days, they were popping up on Perplexity.
Wow.
And I was really, to be honest, in a way shocked to see that already after 7 days, because usually my recommendation is give it a time, right? Wait a couple of weeks. Maybe it takes even a few months.
Yeah.
It depends a bit on, is the AI search picking up the kind of the LLM knowledge, or is it picking up the RAG? Depending on that, it can take even longer. But as said, I was really surprised to see an uptick within 7 days. And the learning there for me is it's not a rocket science approach, right? This is not rocket science. It's all about understanding the user journeys. It's understanding what does the user really need, really, right? What is the person really after? And then being very, very careful about the content creation part on how you can fulfill that user need, that user problem, that user, whatever the user is seeking for, right? And if you over-optimize on the content side, I think you'll see some good results also from an AI search perspective.
Excellent. No, and I, while you're explaining all of this, I'm thinking back to the 90s, right, when we had Gopher, and then we started getting Ask Jeeves and AltaVista and Yahoo, and the promise was, hey, Ask Jeeves is a great example, right? Like, you're going to just ask this thing and it's going to give you these answers. And back then we were getting very crude results, right? Directory based mostly. Then Google came out, they had its algorithm, a little bit better, more relevant results. And then now we're getting truly personalized results that go much more into depth. And the unlock is happening as I'm listening to you talk. So this is really awesome. Cool. You've kind of hit a little bit in there about structured data, schema, and to me, a keyword that's popping up is accessibility, right? If you're following accessibility standards, you're hitting all the structured data stuff. Do you want to hit a little bit more on that before we jump into the executive's approach?
Yeah. So, disclaimer, I'm not a technical expert, right? I'm also not an SEO expert by any means. I'm just someone observing and following and analyzing what I'm seeing. Yeah. But in regards to structured data, it's the rule of thumb from a content creation SEO perspective, right? Use schema.org principles, right? And it kind of goes back to the atomic design principles, right? You have to have a clear content structure. You have to, if you are creating a headline structure, okay, yeah, there's H1 to H6 headline structures. There are some guidelines on how to do that, right? And take a look at the schema.org structure there as well. These are all points that will help you make sure that LLMs as well as Google and basically also your users from an accessibility standpoint are able to understand your content, right? Because your content that you put with a certain font size on your website will be displayed differently on ChatGPT, right? And ChatGPT needs to understand what's the most important headline, what's the second most important headline, what's below that, right? So we have to tell an LLM that, all of those informations. And today I read a really great article from Matt Billman from Netlify and also Tom VC Tungush. I'm really bad pronouncing his last name. On we're going back to a text-based internet. Because in the past few years, we've been building so many fancy visual interfaces, but in some way or another, what those LLMs need, those AI search experiences need, is a text-based approach, because that will help them interpret data, content better, faster, and therefore, if we follow that, our own websites will also be more visible, our own brands will be more visible.
No, absolutely. And as you were starting to talk about more schema stuff, it was popping into my head is we're shifting back from TikTok and YouTube as a focus as marketers to needing to be also augmenting that with text. And it's not enough just to throw the transcript in, right? You're going to need to go in and analyze the transcript and feed the LLM, or at least train it around. But you can use the LLMs to do all of that, right? Like that's the beautiful thing about this technology is it's turtles all the way down. We're just going to use AI all day. So we're 40 minutes in. Hopefully people are still watching. I think this is fascinating stuff. This is all cutting edge. From an executive standpoint, how do they, whether they're a marketing executive, they're the sales executive, how do they need to start planning 6 months, 12 months, 18 months? Who do they need to be hiring? What technologies should they be investing in? Where do you see this all happening?
Yeah. Assuming the precondition is you want to play that game, I would start with an overall content audit, right? Because going back to the text-based approach, the content approach, really look at your web content in particular, your own website content, and ask yourself some fundamentals, right? Ask yourself which content is contributing to the business at the end of the day. Because I'm not here to say we need to chase vanity metrics such as traffic, right? Definitely not. That's not the end goal. The end goal is that we as a business create valuable content that drives and has business impact at the end of the day, which means it starts with the brand strategy. It starts with what's the market you're in, what's the positioning, how do you like to be positioned, how are you proving that positioning with content, with product, right? And if you go down that rabbit hole of asking all of those questions, you hopefully will end up with a clear picture around brand, who you are, where you want to play in, who your competitors are, and which role content plays in that, which role your website plays in that. And if you tackled all of those questions, you're not only optimizing at the end of the day your AI search visibility by making your content a better fit for your specific audiences and persona groups, but you'll optimize all marketing channels at the end of the day, be it paid, be it organic, be it digital, be it PR and comms, be it customer marketing. If everybody's going in the right direction, it's obviously so much more efficient, right? And your marketing ROI, your LTV to CAC will be way more efficient if everybody's aligned behind those big questions and big targets. Another thing I would mention is one of the things why I am excited about this movement, these emerging channels is, in some way, it's kind of breaking down a lot of marketing silos, a lot of go-to-market silos. There's this famous Harvard Business Review study out there that I think it's 71% of all teams are dysfunctional when it comes to cross-functional work. So meaning we cannot work together across the different teams.
I feel like you're accusing me there, Thomas. I feel that was coming at me somehow.
No, I'm sorry. I'm just very, let's say, enthusiastic about that topic, because it kind of shows that yes, we might live in our own bubble and we might be chasing certain, let's say, team goals and ambitions, but if we're not able to collaborate across different functions efficiently and productively together, we're not efficient as a business, right? And we've gone through a few years of efficiencies. I don't think efficiency is going away. So I think a lot of executives care about that. And if I'd be an executive in any business there, really, I would care a lot if my marketing can not only be more creative and be better at content quality, but if we as a go-to-market team, for example, are tackling altogether it more efficiently, I mean, I'm all up for it, right? And the proof point or the reason why I think we are seeing a breakdown in silos is we have to stop thinking about, yes, this is traditional SEO work and my SEO person will fix AI search visibility, and then I'll have a PR and comms department who's gonna make sure that I'm conveyed and portrayed in the right outlets and places, right? You will see media outlets, whatever you define as media outlets, popping up in AI search as well, right? Is that now, so who's now responsible for that, right? Is that SEO? Is that PR and comms? We spoke so much about Reddit. Who's responsible for user-generated content? Who's responsible for community, right? Community work. And how that's impacting our visibility on AI search, right? Who's driving content? Who's creating content? And do those people even know how their content is being consumed on ChatGPT, right? So at the end of the day, I'm just a big advocate of, please, let's bring everybody on the same table. Let's look at those channels. Let's look at those metrics together. And let's prioritize and understand what we need to do about them together. And for me, that's really exciting because it's not only more efficient, but I think it's also more fun if we can collaborate better together.
No, 100%. And and again, this turtles all the way down mantra is we're all using the LLMs at work now, right? So I can type in, hey, you're a professional PR executive with 20 years of experience, give me some strategy. That we're all going to get replaced, right? But we're all going to get replaced by each other. So, and I this melting pot, right? It's a big melting pot. And I think an important thing to tie back to is customer experience as well. Are we talking to our support team? Are we analyzing? We can be analyzing all those chats now, right? The basic analysis is the sentiment analysis, but we can dig way deeper than that with these tools, and so that's really fascinating.
I mean, I'm a marketer, so maybe I'm allowed to say that. Our customers don't care which marketing department did what and was responsible for what, right? At the end of the day, what they care about is getting an answer to their question or to their problem, right? And it's up on us as a business at the end of the day to deliver that, be it in the form of content, be it in the form of our products. But yeah, I mean, I'm all up for that.
Absolutely. So when I hear, to talk about Otterly here, let's focus in on that a little bit and talk about actual tools and applications. So when I've gone into the dashboard and played around just really briefly, it reminds me a lot of these different SEO tools that we've used over the years where you put in your keywords and then it starts tracking things. Can you pull the curtain back a little bit for us and kind of talk a little bit about what's Otterly doing from a practical perspective for marketers?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's very simple, right? The first thing you'll have to do is you have to feed us with the keywords, as you mentioned, right? We call them search prompts that you would like to track. Because at the end of the day, going back to strategy and all of that, you want to play in a certain area, right? You want to play in a certain stadium, and you have to define that for yourself. Similar as you are tracking SEO keywords, you can go to Otterly and you can give us all of your SEO keywords. We help you translate them, convert them into what we call search prompts. Or if you already have some ideas around what search prompts people might use on ChatGPT and Perplexity, you can also start tracking that yourself, right? So we help you with the keyword research and translating that keywords into search prompts. That's step number one. Step number two, we track all of that automatically for you on a weekly basis. We believe in weekly tracking. We've done some research in the past few months where we also compared daily tracking, weekly tracking, monthly tracking, and we found weekly tracking is the most accurate picture for our marketers and brands. Because on a weekly basis, and I mean, first and foremost, most marketers have weekly or monthly KPIs to aim for, right? And the second thing is you will be able to monitor progress and change on a weekly basis in a way easier, understandable way than it would make sense on a daily basis. And monthly is really too long, to be honest. So long story short, we track everything in an automated way weekly for you, which means you get on a weekly basis insights on how visible am I, how visible is my competition, what are the average brand positions, meaning who are the first brand, who's the second brand, the third brand being mentioned on AI, and you can monitor that change over time. In addition to that, we monitor brand sentiment for you. I know today we've spoken a lot about SEO and all of that, but from a brand perspective, we also have to care a lot about how is AI search portraying us as a brand? How is AI search portraying our products, right? How happy are we with that, and how can we get that adjusted if we're not so happy about it, right? So we track brand sentiment for all respective brands that are mentioned on any AI output. Last but not least, we also track links. We all still care about links, bless you, and we still want to track that as well, right? It might become less of a thing in the future, but we all still live and want traffic, right? And people coming to our websites until that one day we're gonna stop with that. But link tracking is also a very important piece, a very important feature where we help brands do that in an automated way. And then you can do all sorts of other fun analysis and reporting on. So we give you all the link citations in one place. You can do some content gap analysis, competitor analysis, and whatnot. So yeah, without going into the details, there's a lot more possible. But to drill it down, brand tracking and link tracking are really the core assets of Otterly right now.
Excellent. Well, and I guess the next big question is, how much does this cost? Can people just try it out? What's the deal?
Yeah, anyone can go to otterly.ai, to our website, and sign up for free. You can start with free 5 search prompts, totally for free during a free trial. And if you plan to use Otterly ongoingly, it really comes down to how big is your website, how many search prompts do you want to monitor. So our pricing packages start at 29 USD per month, and go up to 9.89 depending on the number of search queries you have.
Excellent. And, just trying to wrap things up here at the end. So I think some key takeaways are, first of all, are you going to choose to play in this space or not? And I guess, we've been very pro playing in search AI. What's some reasons for people to not play in here? I mean, there's the obvious one is it's going to cost more money. You're going to spend more time and effort on this. Is there a potential dead end for certain businesses for search AI, do you see?
Very valid question. I mean, reasons not to play in. It's still all very new and early, right? So lots of early adopters are onto it. Is, let's say, the late majority already onto those platforms? Probably not, right? So I think every business, every person has a natural feel on, am I part of the early adopter group? Am I early majority, late majority, laggard type group, right? Depending on that, you might feel more comfortable, less comfortable investing and taking those steps, right? And this is a very personal decision that everybody has to do. I think really that's the main piece there. I think we're still at a stage where there are also, every new channel provides new opportunities for new champions, for new winners to come out of this, right? So I think if you have that mindset, there's still lots of possibilities. You have to be sure that there's a learning curve for you, for your team. You might need to adjust your processes for sure. You're gonna need to spend time and money on that, but there's still some new winners coming up that we all don't know yet, right? And in every industry, in every space, it will be different. So it really comes down to how early do you want to play the game, and are you rather in the group of let me sit back and watch what my competitors will do and what others will do, or are you in the place where you're like, I'm moving ahead, I'm going ahead. There are risks to that, but there are also some big returns possible still.
Absolutely, and I think another key takeaway then, is search engine optimization, right? At this point, if you don't have a search engine optimization plan, a phone book in decades, right? So, but I think the good news is that if you have a good SEO plan and you continue to invest in that, you're pretty much going to be playing in this space, and in adding some tools like Otterly.ai to augment that system, just kind of stick with the principles there. Exactly. Anything to add on the SEO aspect of things?
No, don't skip the SEO level. Start with, I'm on your team, Roger. Start with SEO and then upgrade yourself to the next level, right? So not a good idea to skip this level. It's Absolutely. Not possible.
And I think, and I've mentioned accessibility a few times. In the EU, you have some new laws coming out this year that are really going to be important for people to adhere to. But more importantly, if you're following good accessibility, it's just benefiting all your SEO and your GEO. Well, I guess there's the takeaway. What are we calling this? Is this GEO, AISVO, or AEO? What's your favorite?
My favorite in a way is GEO, Generative Engine Optimization. But to be honest, just because it's the most simple abbreviation, I think it's not the most accurate abbreviation. So I think AI search visibility optimization is a more accurate picture because it talks about visibility optimization, but I think it's just too complex to agree. So I'm more in the camp GEO. All right. Let's see what the market tells us.
I love it. All right. So, and then now the most important, the moneymaker, is if people want to get in touch with you, if they want to try out Otterly, what's the best places for them to go to?
Otterly.ai. You can sign up there. You can always use the live chat and we'll be in touch as well. You can find me on LinkedIn. And I'm inclined to say, go to ChatGPT and do some research on me, and you'll find me there as well.
Ooh, you're playing in the pond, I see already. All right, this is fantastic. Thomas, I've really appreciated this. Thank you for putting up with my technical difficulties at the beginning. This is my first day using a computer, so I think I'm doing all right. But it's been great talking to you, and I hope that we get to speak together again soon and do some follow-ups on this.
Yeah, absolutely. Anytime. Thanks for having me, Roger. Let's
All right,
do this
Thomas.
again.
Ciao.
Have a good one.